If you own a rental property, you already know that maintenance isn't a question of if it's going to happen, but when. You know that late night call about a leak is coming eventually. So today, we're going to break down a complete guide for managing those requests, turning that potential stress into a smooth, streamlined process.
Just imagine it for a second. You get that text message. All it says is, there's a leak, right? Your heart kind of drops. That one little sentence can kick off a whole lot of stress. But what if, instead of just reacting, you had a clear, predefined plan ready to go? Well, that's exactly what we're going to build today.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the universal process that kicks off every single request. Then we'll dive into the 3 different paths you can choose from as an owner. And we'll wrap it all up with the super important emergency protocol that, honestly, protects everyone involved.
Okay, first things first. It doesn't matter which management style you end up picking. Every single maintenance request has to start with the same professional, documented process. This foundation is absolutely crucial.
So it all starts when the tenant sends in that request. The property manager's first job, and it's a big one, is triage. Is this a routine fix or is it a full-blown emergency? Next, they check which management path you've chosen. And from that moment forward, every single thing, every phone call, every photo, every invoice gets documented. This creates that clean paper trail that protects both you and your tenant.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, the big decision you have to make as an owner. You've got 3 distinct paths for handling repairs, and each one has its own unique mix of control, speed, and, of course, risk. Let's break them down.
You know, when you lay it out like this, the trade-offs are crystal clear. Strict approval gives you total control. But look, it's the slowest and carries a high risk because of those delays. Conditional approval finds that sweet spot in the middle. And then you have self-managed, which gives you direct control. But all the liability, that lands squarely on your shoulders.
So let's dig into that first path, strict approval. This is for the owner who wants to personally give the thumbs up on every single repair, doesn't matter how small it is. Nothing, and I mean nothing, happens without your go-ahead.
The workflow here is pretty simple, but it has a hard stop right in the middle. The request comes in, and your property manager immediately sends it over to you. And at that point, everything just pauses. They are waiting until they get your approval back in writing, and it has to be in writing. Only then can they actually get someone scheduled to do the work.
But you gotta know, this level of control comes with some pretty big risks. Delays don't just lead to unhappy tenants who might decide not to renew their lease. They can be financially devastating. That tiny drip you wait on can turn into a huge flood. A minor issue can spiral into a serious habitability violation, which could expose you to fines and legal trouble.
Okay, so that brings us to path number 2, and this is the one that's usually recommended, conditional approval. This is all about a balanced approach that's designed to be proactive, to protect your asset, while still making sure you're in the loop.
So how does it work? It's really simple. You set a pre-approved spending limit, usually somewhere in that $300 to $500 range. For any routine repair that costs less than that amount, your property manager gets an automatic green light to act immediately. No more waiting for your approval.
And the benefits here are huge. Repairs get done faster, which keeps tenants happy. It stops small problems from turning into expensive disasters. And maybe most importantly, it helps make sure you're staying compliant with the law and protecting the long-term value of your investment. It's a win-win.
And when we talk about these habitability laws, what we're really talking about is your legal duty to provide a safe and livable home. This covers all the essentials, like working plumbing, that leak we talked about, and having heat in the winter. Prompt repairs aren't just good service, they're very often a legal requirement.
All right, on to our third and final path, self-managed maintenance. Now this one is really for the hands-on owner, the person who has their own crew of trusted vendors or maybe an on-site handyman and just prefers to manage the repairs directly. But look at the dramatic shift in responsibility here. The property manager basically becomes a coordinator. They forward the request and keep track of it. But the owner? You take on everything else, scheduling the work, making sure the vendors are licensed, and, this is the big one, you assume full liability for how quickly and how well the repair gets done.
Now, it doesn't matter which of those 3 paths you choose. There is one single rule that overrides all of them. When it comes to a real emergency, there has to be a universal safety net in place to protect your property and your tenant.
Let's be perfectly clear about this. Emergencies demand immediate action. There is no waiting around for approval when there's a risk of serious damage or, worse, someone getting hurt. So what really counts as an emergency?
We're talking about the big stuff here. Major flooding, a fire, no heat in the middle of winter, a massive plumbing backup, or seriously unsafe electrical problems. Basically, any condition that makes the property unsafe or unlivable triggers this protocol right away. So, to handle this, there's usually a default emergency authorization, often set around $1,000. Now, this isn't for a full remodel. It's the amount needed to take immediate action, to stop the damage and make the place safe if, for some reason, you can't be reached. Think of it as a critical tool that protects you from much, much bigger losses down the road.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you choose strict approval or decide to manage it yourself. Every single one of these systems is designed to achieve 3 core goals: maintain the value of your property, make sure you're legally compliant, and keep good tenants happy and staying in your property for the long haul.
So, as we wrap up, I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. When you look at these 3 paths and that emergency safety net, is your current maintenance strategy truly protecting your investment? Or is it maybe leaving you a little exposed? Thanks for tuning in.